All right there. Good evening, Protectors. Welcome to the Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Greg LeBuff here with you. Got Coach Dustin, Coach Brad. I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. Listen, tonight's episode, I'm going to share with you the dumbest fucking thing a self-defense expert has ever told me to do. This is fucking stupid. And I remember being told this once, fucking ages ago. And why this popped back up in my mind is because I just saw, probably no shit, 4 Instagram posts from 4 separate so-called martial arts or self-defense experts, all talking about this same dumb fucking technique or concept. And I guarantee you, if you do this, it is going to dramatically increase the odds of you getting murdered, right? So I want to share this with you tonight. I want to talk about it. I want to go deep. All right, stick with us. Mastering the tool of violence so that I can protect myself and my family from violent criminal assault, and how for the past 30 years, I've been helping good people just like... I titled this the dumbest thing a self-defense expert ever told me to do. And I said that I just saw literally 4 videos of these defense-type experts professing the same stupid fucking technique or concept. I don't even get how this is even fucking debatable anymore, but it is. And these guys are very fucking popular, very well-known. And they do have some good stuff. But this is fucking stupid. And I just keep seeing this. It's just like a pronounced theme in their training. And so anyways, let me share with you what this is. And I'm just going to say something because this is the way everybody, I believe, should start this, right? First off, the word expert is subjective, right? I don't prescribe to belts and trophies and titles. We use the term coach. I'll often refer to Dustin and Brad as coach. In our training, nobody calls them coach. They call him Dustin, they call him Brad, and they call me Greg. And it's like, you have a name, just use our fucking names, and that's about the end of it. And so the whole term about expert, listen, I've studied violence for 30 years. Am I an expert? I know more than a lot, and I know less than some. You know what I mean? I remember Bruce Lee had this thing where he's like, people ask him, like, are you any good? And he said, well, listen, if I tell you I'm good, you're going to just say I'm bragging. And if I tell you I'm shit, you're going to know that I'm lying. So I guess I'm somewhere in between. You know what I mean? And nobody has all the answers. And I think that is going to play into what I'm going to talk about. So then how can I sit here and say that I want to share with you the dumbest fucking thing somebody ever told me to do? And it's because it's just partly is common sense, partly is what you've experienced, and everyone has a different reality. But you just need to really look at this, because anybody that is professing one thing as a truth or just this is what you have to do is full of fucking shit. Because combat and violence, it's an alive thing. Just like fighting, it's alive. So Mike Tyson, right? Everyone's got a fucking plan till they get punched in the mouth or they get hit with the truth. So there are things. So for me to set this up, we need to have a few concepts, immutable concepts that you have to understand. Okay. First off, you got to understand that in the world of combat, right? And I'm talking, my expertise is in violence, so I'm speaking towards violence, but it applies to combat sports or whatever martial art you're training. You got to understand something, right? There's things that you try to do intentionally, by design, you say, I've trained these fucking things. And then there are things that you should never fucking intentionally try to do or make happen. There is a concept called accidental or incidental. Okay, accidental, if not incidental. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. What makes this fucking technique that I want to share with you the dumbest fucking thing ever is because this is accidental, if not incidental. If you go in and intentionally looking to achieve one of these techniques that I'm going to share with you, because there's more than one, then I think you're fucking crazy, and you're gonna definitely increase the rate of likelihood that you get fucking murdered. So what am I talking about? Okay, I'm going to talk about a few things. So let me list 3 things: disarms, weapon disarms, okay, locks, like joint locks, joint manipulation. And I'll throw chokes into that as well. Now, I'm going to set a caveat. But you're going to see where my mutable concept is still the truth. I'm actually talking about in stand-up, like when you're still on your feet. Fucking trying to disarm somebody that's got a weapon is fucking dumb. Okay? Trying to put a joint lock onto somebody who's got bad intentions and is bigger and stronger than you and has some skill set is fucking dumb. Okay? And even trying to choke somebody who's bigger, stronger, and trying to hurt you can be dumb. Now, why I say those are dumb, I'm saying they're dumb to intentionally seek those out. It's fucking stupid. It's ludicrous. But in the course of doing something else, like as a consequence of other actions, there can be opportunities to disarm a weapon. Right? As a consequence of doing other things, there can be an opportunity to fucking joint lock somebody. As a consequence of doing other things, there can be opportunity to choke somebody. Now, I'm talking stand-up, right? But let's just real quick, let's say we're on the ground. Let's go to jiu-jitsu, okay? So you're on the ground. You don't fucking try, well, like if you're doing jiu-jitsu, most jiu-jitsu probably isn't wrestling against a knife. They're probably not. Or once every 6 months, the instructor, look at this novel concept, and somebody has a knife in their hand, and then they start wrestling with someone with a knife. Okay, but whatever. Let's just assume that all jiu-jitsu guys actually rolled against weapons, knives, sticks, clubs, whatever it is, all the time, frequently. When you're on the ground, you don't just go for a fucking disarm any more than you just go straight for a lock. That's not how you roll. You don't just go for a lock. You don't just go for a choke. Now, I'm not saying that in the first fractions of seconds of being on the ground, a lock might be there might be an opportunity to lock somebody. There might be an opportunity to choke somebody, just like there would potentially be an opportunity to disarm somebody. But that's not the norm. That's not what you do. That means that they've made a critical fucking mistake. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They did 99% of the work for you. They created the opportunity, which by definition is a consequence of a different action. That you end up on the ground with somebody and that guy puts his hand on your chest because maybe he's in your guard and he goes to push away from you. And he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, so he overextends his arm and he rotates a little bit so he presents his shoulder nice and deep. He gives you perfect alignment on that. So as a consequence of him trying to push away from danger and get away from you, he's given you the armbar setup. Okay, so there you go. It's accidental, if not incidental. And I'm just going to read you the definition. Incidental, right? Liable to happen as a consequence of an activity. So that's my theory, right? It's incidental. Now, let's say that he doesn't do that. He tucks in tight, whatever, on the ground. When you're on the ground, and I'll ask this to you guys, what's the first thing that you look for on the ground? Is it a lock? Is it a disarm? Is it a choke? What's like, is it a submission? What's the first thing that you look for on the ground?
You're looking to stabilize yourself and destabilize your opponent.
Okay, Bert. Position.
Yep.
Position. And position, you went even more detailed. Position to either gain a stability, points of control on the person, or to destabilize him. Maybe he's in a position where he's got stability, he's got leverage, or whatever it is, and so you work for position. So position is first. And this is a pretty popular jiu-jitsu saying, position leads to submission. But if you listen to coaches like John Danaher and stuff like that, they talk about an intermediate thing between position leads to the trap. It leads to the setup. So you position, and then maybe you isolate or you trap, right? You ratchet tighter a position which leads to a trap of an arm, of a shoulder, of whatever it is. And then only then does that then lead to the submission. The point is when you're doing jiu-jitsu, right, and you're on the ground, it's position first. Now, if the other guy fucks up so badly that he puts himself, like I said, in this horrific position, he does it voluntarily, a submission might be there instantaneously. But it was incidental. And when it was, you just took it. So you don't just, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a lot of years. I don't ever remember just jumping on the ground against a big, strong guy who had some basis of skill, and he just automatically put it I just went, oh, look, there's a submission, there's a submission, there's a submission there. No, you got to position. And most times you got to fucking wear them down. You got to burn some energy. You got to, if they're a roast, you got to cook them a little bit. And then you finally are able to establish good position, and then you go into a good trap, and and then all of a sudden, and the submission is effortless because you're just like, oh, look, it's literally here. So let's get back off the ground and come back to stand up. Why the fuck, if on the ground where you are in body contact to body contact, where you have this tactile connection, when you still need positioning, when's the last time you went for a rear naked choke from inside the guy's guard? Well, no, I can't do that. Yeah, because you don't have the fucking position to do it. So that would be intentionally trying to do a submission. But it's a great submission. Yeah, fucking right, it's a great submission. But it's even better when you got back control. And it's even better when you've got, strong side position. And it's even better when you got arms isolated by tucking them under your legs or something. It's even better when you've exposed the neck. Then it's really fucking good. But you had to work your way there. Now that's intentional on the ground, but in stand-up, accidental if not incidental. And just so we're real clear, what I keep seeing these experts and what I was told to do is imagine now you got a big strong guy and he's got an 8-inch blade in his fucking hand. And he's standing there with nothing but fucking attributes, space and opportunity, and bad fucking intentions. And so this guy's gonna fucking start, prison style. This guy's gonna start pumping you like a fucking sewing machine. And what they're telling people to do is, when he steps in to try to stab you, you rush in and you trap the arm. You frame it, so he comes in with like, like what we call an angle one. He comes in with like a forehand slash, and you use your forearms and you step in with your body weight and you jam the arm and then you latch onto the arm. You hug up tight to his arm using your entire body and you become like a boa constrictor and you just latch onto this guy's arm. And then now you've got his arm and now you've isolated and now you're in control of the limb that has the weapon. Now let me throw a caveat in there because he said, don't ever try to grab the hand because that's too precise. So when you shoot in there, even though the knife's in the hand, don't ever try to grab his hand because that's just too fine a motor skill. You got to go in big and latch onto the arm, use your entire body weight, your head's up against his shoulder, and you're keeping that arm isolated and you're putting body weight into it. And then they say, and then strike from there. Right away I'd go into my striking. How the fuck are you striking when you're like an anaconda wrapped on his fucking arm? And here's the problem. Here's what happens. Here's what happens. He just takes his other hand and he passes the knife to his other hand. And while you're fucking hanging on his arm like a fucking sloth on a tree, he's pumping you full of fucking holes with the other hand. Because there's nothing stopping him from just switching hands. Unless you go, you got to be big enough and strong enough to destabilize him while you're holding his arm and you're striking. What the fuck are you striking with when you're hugged up on his arm? I can't use my hands, so I can't punch. I can't gouge eyes. I can't rip ears. My head's against your shoulder. I can't, there's nothing to bite. I can't knee. I can't even headbutt because the second I release any of that, this big strong guy, his arms, what do you think his reaction is when you try to grab the arm where he's holding the knife? It's fucking insane that they all say this. And then they stand there and it's like, when he takes that swipe at you, either on that forehand slash when he's coming in, you step in and you jam him and grab the arm. Or if that's too fast, you just lean back, let that slice pass you, and then you jam in when the knife crosses center line and now he's on the backhand, and then you jam in then and you hug up the arm. Let me just pause on this for half a second because and please feel free to tell me if I'm fucking off my rocker. But you guys have been doing this for over, coming on 25 fucking years here. You guys have done a ton of scenarios. You guys have been in some shit. You know what I mean? Like, what do you guys think if I ever told you or anyone ever told you that what you got to do is get in there intentionally and trap up and isolate that arm? Give me some feedback off this.
Well, initially, you know what? It doesn't line up. Because when you take that concept and I wrote down a word, one fucking word. That word is pressure. I feel that I would get fucking pincushion. If a guy's got pressure, like I think you're betting on a lot of things go right.
Fuck yeah, you are.
Like everything.
Like,
Like fucking
Like-
everything.
like everything. So, what do we know about combat? Shit's not gonna go right. Shit's gonna fuck up. Shit's gonna be dirty. Shit's gonna be messy. Shit's gonna be fucking painful. Shit's gonna be, who knows what it's gonna be, because it's gonna be fucking chaotic. And it's like, if you think that you're gonna pull out this fucking magical trap up the arm thing, and then have against someone who's bigger and stronger, it's a falsehood. It's a unicorn, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dustin, before you go, you're very calm, Brad. Yeah. It went from I noticed the difference from my tone and my frustration and anger to you're good for me. I'm gonna have a sip of my tea and I'm gonna try to just breathe. I'm gonna regulate my inner control box here. So I
I'm
appreciate
just
that.
bringing some balance.
Some balance to yeah. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
For me, like, because I mean, obviously, we've all seen these videos and these suggestions, and the thing I love about it is they spend this time explaining what you should do, and then they demo it for you, which is always my favorite part, because their student, the bad guy, comes in with like just that, like you said, as an angle one, and it just comes in nice and slow, and then they demo it. I mean, yeah, of course it's a demo, but it's like, but if you truly believe in what you're preaching, what you're telling people to do, well, number one, like, put a little bit of speed on that first and foremost. Like Brad said, let's put some pressure behind that. Let's put some motivation in that attacker. And then now let's talk about reverberation. Like, if somebody is hell bent on putting that knife in you, like, that's not a single angle of attack, one and done, and like, it's not a Hail Mary. They're not hoping that one slash is going to just sign, seal, and deliver you in a body bag. Like, I mean, put a 5-inch piece of steel serrated in a 6-year-old's hand, who and tell that kid, like, for all he's worth, like, try and stab me. Like, I'm not going up against that kid. not with that technique, I mean.
No, not with that technique.
Do you know what I mean? I'll take the kid on with what I got, but not what they're preaching.
Yeah.
Because it's insane to me. You know what I mean? Which is obviously the point you're trying to make. But, like, they're leaving out, like Brad said, everything has to go right. Because the second reality sets in, it's absurd.
Yeah.
Well, you said something, Greg, and I know you were making a joke. You said, "Oh, I'm going to sip my tea and regulate my response and dial in my inner control box." We're not even talking about that. Let's put that shit on the table, and then you have to try to think of pulling out this fucking technique when you got this fucking raging lunatic who's trying to murder you. Let's put that in front of you, and like, let's make it actual real, where you have all the physiological and psychological and emotional of everything that's happening in front of you, and then now you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a great point, Brad. Great point, Dustin. And I'm gonna shotgun rant this a little bit, right? Because I'm just so sick of this, and I want people to understand the balance of where I come from. But two things: one, when somebody actually has a real fucking blade in their hand, like you see it, and they pull this fucking knife out, and it's fucking real. It's like most self-defense never tries to make that real. They just teach techniques and, you're going to come in and do this and grab this. And like you said, Brad, they completely skip over the fact that you guys got to understand something. This is a live fucking blade. You know what I mean? Like, and here's the thing. You got to understand how to train things. And very, 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 very seldom should a live blade ever be introduced into training. But it should at a certain point in a certain way. And a lot of people are going to go, oh my God, how can you say that? Have you ever gone to a firearms training institute? Here's a fucking newsflash. They actually use live rounds. Holy fuck. You mean there's a way that they can actually do close quarter kill houses and do shoot house work and all that stuff and actually use live rounds? Isn't that riskier? Well, yeah, it's fucking riskier than using fucking paintballs. But you actually get that, putting a live gun in the hand with live rounds in it and having multiple people moving and shit like that in 3-dimensional environments. Like, yeah, you fucking have to do it at some point. If you've ever had, someone stand in front of you with a real fucking blade and you're moving around a little bit. Now, obviously, like on a firing range, there are controls, and that has to be done when somebody is ready to have this shit done. I'm not saying you should be engaging in a live blade knife fight. Of course not. But I'm saying that just the fact that when all of a sudden you have a fucking live blade in someone's hand, the pucker factor goes up. And that's not, and this motherfucker's not actually going to try to stab me right now. Right? Like, I actually have created and used a stab suit. So, like, I actually created a suit where I have went from fucking raw meat that I created this custom homemade body armor, and then it turned into different ballistic gelatin molds and stuff like that, so that our guys can actually pull their live blades and stab me with it. Right? I'm doing a scenario where I'm leaving them no choice legally and morally, and all of a sudden, and you got regular clothes on over top of it. And here's the thing. I don't have gloves on. I don't have a helmet on. There are vulnerable spots in the suit, but I trust them, and they're at a level where they know, okay, this is the area that I can target. But the pucker factor is way the fuck up on everybody. And you guys have been through this. What's it like the first time you actually take out your live blade, and even though we're in a role play, and all of a sudden you stab that into a body, and you got somebody moving behind that? That is as close as you're going to get to what it feels like to fucking stab or slash into somebody. And it's like, and it's at the end of it, you got that adrenaline and SNS is pumping through your fucking veins, and you feel that. That's with you using your live blade against a bad guy. Never mind the bad guy having the live blade coming at you with 220, 250, 180, whatever the fucking guy happens to weigh, but bigger than you, stronger than you, and he's got zero psychic hindrance. And yet you're going to time, when that slash comes in, you're going to bridge in, absorb that, and then you're going to connect onto that arm with everything that your little body's worth, and you're going to now control it and use that and wrestle him to the ground. And then, of course, you're going to strike. I don't know how you strike and control at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like, it's insane. It's insane. Now, I'm going to temper this, right? Because here's the thing. That technique can actually fucking work. Now, do I sound like a complete fucking lunatic? This guy just literally went off about how this is the dumbest fucking thing in the world to do. And now he's telling me at a certain point in time, it's the smartest and only thing you'll have to do that could save your life. Matter of fact, one of these so-called experts, and he is, well, again, I don't know. I don't use the term expert, whatever. He actually, when he talks and teaches this technique, he shows a video of a guy in the street using this technique to save his life. And yet it's still the dumbest fucking thing ever. Why? Because I can't say this enough. The context determines the content, meaning accidental if not incidental. So the video is this. There's a guy, and he's a bigger guy. He's probably in the video, it's tough to tell, but he's 5'7", 5'8". He's an average height guy, but he's a heavier set guy. He's 220, 230. And it's like he's standing there talking to his girlfriend, and he's kind of facing his girlfriend. And from his right side, he doesn't see this guy. This fucking guy walking down the street. Now, whether they had beef or whether this was I don't know. But you see this fucker coming down the street. The guy doesn't see him. And this guy's got a fucking good-sized butcher knife in his hand. Probably 18-inch butcher knife. And this guy full out sprints at this guy. And this guy's still looking at his girlfriend. He doesn't see him. He doesn't see him. This fucking guy's coming. He winds the arm up. And he's running to him, and when he gets close enough, he's going to slash this fucking guy. This guy doesn't see him. At the last fraction of a second, the guy turns, sees the guy, like the guy's red, has a startle response. He's like, oh, fuck. His hands come up. Remember, the startle flinch response in the human body is to body orientate. He saw something in his periphery. He body orientated. And it's to push away from danger. So the hands come up to protect and push away from danger. Well, when he did that, he looked at the guy, body orientated. He startled, flinched, his hands popped up. Now, here's the thing. The thing that he did that was super smart is instead of when his hands came up to push away from danger and leaning away from the guy, he actually, because the guy was right there, he leaned into the guy. So he got startled, flinched, and he leaned forward about a half a foot, 6 inches. And when he did that, guess what happened? The guy was in the middle of his swing, and this guy's arms jammed the guy's arms. Like, that's where they made contact. And the second they did that, the guy, because his arms hit his arms, the little short guy who was about to get stabbed, he grabbed onto his arms. Like, he hung up. He did this he grabbed it. And because he was, 5'8" and 220, 30 pounds, and the other guy was probably 6'1", and probably about 180 pounds, he spun hard to his left, And then the guy with the knife, there was a car parked there, ended up getting slammed into the car. So he hit the car, the knife fell, and then they both fell onto the ground. And then the video basically ends. So that's the guy going, see, this technique works. That video I would take and go, see, accidental if not incidental. Yes, it worked. But he didn't stand there in a knife fight like these guys talk about with a guy sitting there going, oh, so you are aware of me. We are now squared off. We're in a conventional toe-to-toe fight. And now I am slashing at you while not moving forward with that type of, blitz pressure. I'm now, as like a boxer throwing a jab, I'm now slashing at you or stabbing at you. And you think that you're now going to use that same jam the arm technique? You know what I mean? Because so let me throw this out there too, just so that everybody hears this. You want to know what the greatest knife defense technique in the world is, bar none? It's the one you can fucking do. Based off your attributes, based off the situation, based off the circumstances. Like, that's what it is. There is no fucking one technique. To sit there and tell someone, oh yeah, you got to time that, you got to have the balls screwed on tight enough, you got to drive in at the exact perfect moment in time, jam his arm, grab onto the arm, hope he doesn't switch hands, hope he's not heavier and stronger than you and fucked up on PCB, so now he starts fucking ragdolling you around and fucking nailing you with his other hand and fucking doing God knows whatever else he's doing. And while you're doing all that, maintain a 360-degree situational awareness in case he's not alone. And people will be right, well, no, now you're painting an impossible situation. No, I'm not. I'm painting a real-world situation. And I'll tell you what, that's why you need a fucking strategy that isn't partially made up of a suicide pact. Like, you have to take all these factors into account before you go, well, what is going to be my strategy? What are my tactics? Because the only way that I'm going to end up in that situation is like the guy in the video, if it's accidental, if not incidental, and I have no choice. All of a sudden, something comes up, boom, my hands come up, boom, we make contact, then I might grab that fucking thing. I still wouldn't grab it like that. Once you make contact, I would fucking start, I love how people always say, oh, and also then you got to strike as well. But that's what you got to teach people how to do. How do you strike from those positions? How do you maintain? How do you take base and fucking balance? I mean, now I'm going to get in and I'm going to start going into a bunch of technobabble, which I don't want to do. So I'll put it in park for a second and I'll let you guys chit chat.
Yeah, you know what? One thing that I'll say straight away is it's a fucking technique. Whatever you want to call it, it's a technique. And you are forcing somebody to put a technique into play without a strategy.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a simple technique, right? Now you're relying all that with no foundation, no nothing that's supporting anything, right? So it's like, what are you're and when you give people techniques, and I think why I'm kind of leaning into that is that when you give them a specific technique for a specific thing, what do they want to do? They want to do the fucking technique, and they leave out all the other shit that's gonna save them because they're like, oh, I gotta execute this technique. The knife's coming. I gotta crash and I gotta like trap up on that arm and secure it. But it's like what we know, and I've seen this lots. Like I've been coaching for a long time, is when you give somebody that specific thing, what else? Everything else stops, and they're trying to do that. Mm-hmm. So when you have somebody being attacked in a violent situation, and they're like, I have to do this technique, they're primed for it. They try to do it. Most times you're going to fucking forget everything that you taught them anyway, in terms of shit like that. But like, what do you fucking, you're going to be trying to execute a technique with no, like, you're lost.
Yeah.
There's nothing
100%.
else to it. Like, you have no other foundation.
Dustin? Yeah, a couple things. One, just to kind of hit on the exact same thing as Brad, is like, you know, you're asking people to do picture perfect technique in a completely imperfect situation. Going back to like them demoing it, right? The demo, everything's perfect. It's the perfect feed. It's the perfect level of no aggression. for these things to work. So when you start adding in all those different aspects that make up violence and combat, it's just so unrealistic. And I think why you see so much, and Brad started to talk about this too, where it's like people want the sizzle. What I mean? That's why they're out there professing technique. People want the sizzle of the steak. They want to show up at the restaurant and just eat the perfect steak. Yeah. Like they don't want to go to the grocery store, drive to the grocery store, get the meat, go home, prepare the meat, cook the meat. They sure as hell don't want to go spend 2 weeks in the bush, stalking the perfect animal, hunting the animal, getting the animal, field dressing the animal, packing the animal out, on and on and on. It's like people don't want to put in the work. The work doesn't sell, right? It's the sizzle they want. So these guys are out there professing this like it's going to work. And that's because all they care about is their business model. Yeah. And it's like, but that's not what actually keeps people safe. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's everything else. It's all the work that keeps people safe, but you never see the work because the work doesn't sell.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll throw something else in on there too, that I've always taught by, and I believe this is true. You can have an instructor, right? And this guy, or an expert, whatever you want to call him, and he's dedicated his life to training in arts and blah, blah, blah. And get a big, strong guy in there, uncooperative, all this type of stuff. Put a knife in his hand. They use these now little knives that when they make contact, they buzz. They don't shock anybody. They just make a fucking sound. But supposedly that sound is like, okay, that you would have got cut here, you would have got cut here. And it's like, okay. And they do have shock knives that you can use and stuff like that. So if you get cut, there's a little more pain penalty for it and stuff like that. But the thing is, if you got a guy and he's able to do these techniques because he's strong, fast, coordinated, whatever, he's the fucking... he's the representative of the brand. Like, I see all these people walking around, they're all wearing Air Jordans. My daughter wears Air Jordans. She can't play basketball worth shit. You know what I mean? Like, fucking sucks at basketball. But she wears Air Jordans. So it's like, just because fucking Michael Jordan jumps 1,000,000 miles and wears these shoes, they're not going to make you any better at basketball. But everybody will get them because, and the people that wear basketball, it's a status thing. I'm like Jordan. I like Jordan, whatever the fuck it is. So even if you got someone that is so talented and so attribute rich that they can do this shit, here's the thing. I'm not that guy. I live off this training philosophy, right? I have horrible attributes. I'm the most unathletic person that you're ever going to fucking meet. I have no natural instincts for any of this stuff at all. I have no predisposition to conflict or aggression or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I was, all of those things terrified me. Like, I want to believe, whether it's true or not, that I am starting from below zero. Below fucking zero. Then go to somebody and say, here's my credentials, of which there is none. Here's my liabilities, of which there are aplenty. What the fuck can you do for me? Because you have people out there, right? Like my mentors, like Paul, they understood. Say that's perfect. Because what we're doing is giving you strategies and giving you tactics, giving you tools. And here's the big thing, giving you training methodologies that will increase your attributes, all this stuff, all based off the fact that you don't know shit and that you suck. Now, it's great if you don't suck at everything. Like, how did you get here? Like, what do you mean? Like, how did you get from the car to my door? Well, I opened my car door and I walked up here. And how did you get my attention from the house? What the fuck are you talking about? Did you knock on the door or ring the doorbell? Rang the doorbell. Well, you lied to me. We actually have some pretty decent attributes, hey? You used some motor function to find the door handle. You opened up the door. You got out. You closed the door. You didn't get your shirt or fingers caught in the fucking door, right? No. You walked up the step. I even got one elevated step up there. You made that? Yeah. Look, you son of a bitch. You're chewing gum. So you're chewing gum and walking, and then you had the dexterity and the motor skill to press the doorbell. So you're not a complete fucking basket case, right? No. I'm just saying I'm no fucking Jordan. I'm no elite athlete. Who gives a fuck? What you do and the way you train has got to work for the least of us, not the best of us. Right? What do I show my 14-year-old and my 10-year-old daughter? What do I show them about how to relay injury from their age and at their size to a much larger, bigger, stronger, motivated, predatory attacker? Because that's who I'm worried about attacking them. Do they have to also worry about people their own age? Yes. Case in point, side caveat, the young boy, 13 years old, 40, just got fucking boot stomped by 4 fucking guys and put in the hospital with a concussion in Leduc 2 days ago. Asked a girl for a cigarette. He's on the spectrum, and he misses social cues. And the girl said something to him, whatever, and then he said some things he shouldn't have said, called her some names, which, again, he's on the spectrum. And the 4 or 5 guys that were standing around with this girl fucking nailed him, hit him down, knocked him down, and then just began to fucking boot fuck this guy. You can see the video of it. Like, no compunction, right on his fucking head every single time. Just stomping on his head as hard as they fucking could, booting him, kicking him. There was, you know, again, I always say, people always talk about how violence starts. Nobody talks about how violence ends. You know how it ends? It doesn't end with somebody breaking it up, the Good Samaritan again. It doesn't stop because, you know, it stops because either the criminal is tired and can't keep stomping your head into the concrete, or they get bored. Then they just decide, fuck, walk away. Is that after you're dead? Is that while you're dying? Is that before that? You get what I mean? So I don't want to stray off topic with it, but this shit, it's again, like, I'll circle back because I really want my point. Everything can work, but there's a moment in time where these things are accidental, if not incidental, and it's a great opportunity. And so, yes, you should know how to do that. So, yeah, I want some line from us. Geez, what happens if we got hung up here and all of a sudden his fucking arm's like, I got his arm. It's like, okay, right here, unassisted head, but here, do this. Here, move your body this way. This is how you take base and balance, blah, blah. All of a sudden, he's trying to get away from me and his arm bends up and I'm like, oh, shit. Look, I got his hand partially in the night and, oh, fuck, there's a disarm. Or I could fucking bite it and he drops it. Like, you know, accidental, if not incidental, in the course. So while doing other things, it becomes a consequence of. And that's what I want people to understand. So real quick, because I don't want to lose this, but so what are these other things you're doing? Because Dustin, you were bridging us into, you know, the strategies. And I was talking about how, like, what are the strategies? What are these other things you're doing that aren't technique related? The simplest thing is managing distance. You're either taking space or giving space. So you're either backing up and giving, or moving lateral and giving space, or you're taking up some space. Now, as a consequence of managing distance, there's going to be opportunities to relay injury. And that in violence, that's the biggest thing I want to do is relay injury. So I'm managing distance and I'm relaying injury. Now, again, what type of injury? Well, whatever is the most economical, brutally efficient thing to do at that moment. I will tell you something here. Learn this lesson. There are so many moments before a disarm is ever going to come into the equation, or a lock, or a choke. There are so many ways to relay injury prior to those moments. Now, you got to remember something. On the ground is the same, yet slightly different. Because on the ground, as I'm using my body and I'm using control, you're using your guard, you're using, you know, you got them wrapped up in neck control, you got the mount, you're distributing body weight, knees are squeezed in. You are controlling. That's how you are, you know, taking control of that person. Those are the opportunities that's the positioning that will lead to the setup, which will lead to the ultimate submission or relaying of injury. In stand-up, you don't have that ability to use your body to control necessarily, unless, of course, the timing of it and you can shoot in and all that type of stuff, but much more difficult to do. And again, the second you put mass attack into it, you cannot shoot in and isolate one-on-one the same way. If UFC all of a sudden turned into 2-on-1 fighting, where, you know, instead of one-on-one fighters, but you got you had agreed to fight 2 fighters from the same fight camp from the same fight team, and, you know, they're going to their camps and they're coming up with their strategies, the strategies would change dramatically that you'd see fighters using. And they would start, you know, they wouldn't have to invent strategies. They would just start looking into the world of, you know, of special warfare. They would just start looking at these other tactics and start going, okay, how do you have, you know, a 4 or 5 man team take out 10, 15 bad guys? Their strategies are different. The unconventional as the warfare is different. and you'd start seeing some of the stuff that we're doing. Does that kind of make sense? So I mean, it's like anything can be possible, but it's recognizing what the moment allows. And then, you know, again, so what are you intentionally training? And what we intentionally train are the strategies, not the tactics and not the techniques and tools. Those are there because once we're implementing our strategy, there's going to be an opportunity. And then you're just going to go, oh, I will now put this into my kill chain because there's the opportunity. And we don't care what it is. But again, you have to understand the accidental, if not the incidental. Does that track? I mean, I know you guys understand the concept, but hopefully I'm articulating in a way where people can kind of get their head around this concept.
Yeah, I mean, like to hit it from a slightly different way, it's like I think it's a lot of it, like it's risk management. That's what people have to understand. Like the guy in that video you talked about, you know, the 5'8" guy who just startle flinches the right way, happened to lean in, grab the arm, spun the guy into a car. Like, yes, it worked pretty well, perfect in that specific situation. But it's like, but what are the odds of that? What are the odds that guy does it again?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? In the same scenario where he doesn't know what's about to happen. Like, what are the chances that he pulls that off again? It's pretty slim. So it's like, what's the risk in that being your fundamental game plan? The risk is like absurdly high.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is like when you have strategies on the forefront instead of these picture perfect techniques, it's like, yeah, we're trying to minimize risk. We're trying to take what are the higher percentage ways to do things so that you can minimize the amount of risk to yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I want to just let me do this real quick because then maybe this is a great as we maybe come towards the end of this conversation. But I want to leave people with hopefully some clarity of like say, well, what the fuck do I do? Strategy, right? But let's take the same example. A guy's got a knife, right? The guy rushed in like that. The guy caught him the last second. He startled, flinched. He got a good lean in. Things worked out, and he trapped up that. He grabbed the arm. He didn't trap up the arm. It wasn't. He doesn't. You could tell he had no training in martial arts. He, of course, the arm was there. He grabbed on for dear fucking life, like a man thrown into a fucking raging river and a tree branch floats by. And you think he's not going to reach out and grab that fucking thing and do everything he can to hang on to it? That's what this guy did. Okay, so that's not exactly proof that your tactics are sound in terms of like this is what everybody should be intentionally trying to do against a fucking crazed lunatic with a knife. But the idea is this, and hopefully people get some consciousness. What I'm going to profess to people, what I would say, is if you got a guy, a big strong guy, motherfucker in front of you with a knife. Now let's go off not the startle flinch, because I agree if that's a startle flinch and you flinch in like that's what you did the last you drive forward, like that worked out well. So we're gonna just concede that. Perfect, great. But you got a guy now, all of a sudden he's coming at you with a knife. He's standing in front of you. He's got bad intentions. Right away, you're just like, oh fuck, this guy's got a knife. Well, here's a great concept. One of the easiest ways to defend against a weapon is to fucking have a weapon. Okay, right? Oh, wait, let me present a story as absolute resounding truth of the statement I just meant. There's a guy, undercover cop, here in Edmonton. Undercover cop, right? He's driving home. He just got off an operation. So he's in police, unmarked police car, right? But he's fucking geared up. But like he's undercover, so you can't see his shit. There's a car beside him, fucking road rages this guy. He's fucking freaking out, does whatever. These guys eventually pull him off the road, like they force him off the road, and two doors open up in the vehicle in front of this guy. They fucking jump out, and they got fucking machetes, and they start fucking coming towards his car. This guy opens the door, he gets out, and guess what? Pulls his motherfucking gun out. And also, he's got his badge, he's got his gun out, get the fuck down on the ground, and guess what? Guess what those guys did? Lied down on the fucking ground. Put their weapons down, lied down on the fucking ground. What a great, now that's one of the best ways to defend against a weapon is to have a fucking weapon. And then right away we go, well, yeah, but we can't carry guns. You're right. But if those guys pulled a machete and then you pulled out a fucking knife or you had a machete or you had a bat or you had a flexible weapon, if anyone knows what a sjambak is, and if you don't, look it up. Because if you got a sjambak against a knife, sjambak and a knife is even better. A knife versus a tactical flashlight. Fucking depending on, time of day, whatever it is, but you got 1,000 looms hitting your eyes. It's tough to use that knife, but it's a weapon. It's a tool. So there's one concept, right? You know, but people aren't teaching. Well, because then people say, no, but we're working. What do you do if you don't have a weapon? Why don't you have a weapon? Like maybe you should go to a self-defense course and go, listen, have you ever considered making sure that you're trained enough to the point that you are now always armed? And you could be armed with a myriad of different things. Tactical pens, tack lights, small knives, long knives, fixed blades, folding blades, shambocks, flexible weapons, fucking hand loads, projectile weapons. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So people say, no, we can't do that. To me, that should be part of the training. Because if you choose not to arm yourself, then you choose to be more vulnerable. Dustin, you just said the word. It's called risk management. Mitigate your risk. Right? So that's that. The other side of it is, if all of a sudden you got some fucking lunatic with a knife in front of you and you're like, this guy's gonna, now people say, oh, run. Yeah, run if you can run, but you can't always run. But yeah, run is great. But have you even taught people how to run? People are like, what do you mean everybody knows how to run? If I talk about tactical movement or talk about running, what am I talking about? Just give me an example, one or two things.
I'd say more evading than not running in the straight line. Everybody knows that's what everyone does know.
Okay, so how would you train that? What do you mean evading? What could you do?
Move around a piece of environment. Go over a fucking car. Go under a car. Anything.
There you go.
Go outside and play tag.
There you go.
Like you know.
And people would think that's a joke. But like you could say, like Brad said, and go under something, go over something, go around something, go fucking through something. Right? Dustin, go outside and play fucking tag. Go outside and, you know, and this is funny. If you took most fighters, really good fighters, and you took out and you gave one guy two, like, you know, socks with like a little bit of sand in each sock, just so that it has like a little bit of weight to it. And you know what I'm talking about? Like if you get hit with that, it's going to have a fucking splat. You know what I mean? And then put about 8 ounces of human feces in that thing. You know, maybe a couple hypodermic needles poking through the sock. And then be like, all right, I'm going to try to smack you with this fucking thing. You know what I mean? You don't have to do nothing but just run. Just evade me. You're not going to run in a straight line unless you're faster than him. But most people, you're probably not going to be faster than this attacker. So you're going to need to evade. Over, under, through, whatever the fuck, around. You're going to do whatever you can do. But you actually can train that and get good at using the environment. Just like playing a game of tag. To where, like, if there's a car there, a tree shrub there, a light post there, a fence, or whatever it is, you will be better at going over, under, around, through, whatever. You will be better at that because you go, I actually fucking trained that. I actually trained tactical movement. Right? Just like you actually got to practice learning how to shoot and move. It's a fucking skill set. You don't just get good at shooting. Someone that's good at shooting isn't necessarily good at shooting and moving. Those are separate skill sets that need to be combined together. And shooting and moving and lying down and standing up and running and ducking and sliding and recovering base. But why is that so different if you got in a situation where you got 1 or 2, 3, 4 guys coming at you, guys got knives and machetes? You better fucking run, you better move. How many times have we heard of machete attacks at West Edmonton Mall? There's a lot of shit at West Edmonton Mall for you to move around, over, under, through, whatever. You get what I mean? And yet, nobody really has any training on how to do that. But it's like, that'll save your fucking life. And I'm more confident that that will save your life than trying to perfectly time, shoot in, grab the fucking arm, all intentionally, by the way. Not accidentally or incidentally. Intentionally trying to pick that moment. Like it's, you know, so I'm just trying to give people concepts here of how much easier it is to take someone. And again, if you're not the best athlete or you don't have the best mobility, then again, the whole movement thing. Oh yeah, but what's some 50-year-old guy going to do or 60-year-old guy? Well, I'm 52, so fuck that. What's some 70-year-old guy going to do? He can't fucking move around and play this tag game you're talking about. No, that motherfucker needs a weapon. And he needs a really good fucking weapon. And he needs a weapon they'd never expect him to have, and then he needs to practice and learn how to use that weapon, to, you know what I mean? Like, because that's how he's going to survive. You think he's going to shoot in and grab the arm? If he's too old to fucking move, he's too old to shoot in, clinch onto the fucking arm, and then bully the guy around. Like, come on. I'm trying to drive back to my original point. You know what the best technique is? The one that works for you, the one you can do. So I'm not sitting here as an expert going, that's the dumbest thing ever. You should do this or you should do that. No, you should first off figure out who the fuck you are. What are your attributes? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Then you got to look at it and go, listen, what do I have? Risk management. What's going to give me the highest odds? Not what's the flashiest thing, not what's the coolest thing to teach at a seminar, not what looks best on video. You know what I mean? You know, all that other shit that tends to come into this stuff. Because I seen this guy, you know, well, again, it's not one guy, it's a bunch of guys, but at the end of it, they're like, oh yeah, we did our 3-hour seminar today, our knife defense seminar, and I took him through 30 different knife defense drills. 3 hours and 30 drills, and he goes, I have like 200 more drills we could have gone through. Now I know you're not training. What the fuck are you talking about? You're increasing people's reaction times by trying to show fucking 30 different drills, 200 different drills in a 3-hour period. But that's what seminars are. Seminars are like, you know, everyone is impressed. Everyone judges the quality of a seminar based on the volume of content. Because they don't have an educated eye to go, you know, to discern between what's going to work. I mean, I used to get this all the time. Amber Alert just came in. I used to get this all the time where at the Inosanto Academy, they used to ask, do you want to train like a martial artist or do you want to train like a fighter? Right? Meaning you want to train like a warrior or you want to train like a martial artist? And if you said, I never said this, but if you said martial artist, then you got a class, and in that 2-hour class, you got 70 techniques. It was every 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay, the next. Now we progress on this, and next, and next, and next, and next, and next. And when you said, no, I want to train like a fighter, Sensei Yuri Nakamura, it was like, yeah, you're going to train you like a fighter. Now, this is, you know, early UFC days. So, I mean, people, you know, and he came from Japan, all this stuff. But so it wasn't like he was talking like it is nowadays. But what he meant was not fighter for the ring. What he meant was like, you actually want to train to be fucking tough, get good. Yeah. And he'd get everybody in like a step tap, just footwork drill, just doing this basic footwork drill, moving, basic footwork drill. And he just left. And he came back like 45 minutes later and said, okay, switch, other side, other leg forward. And they just walked away again. And just came back, 45 minutes later. And then he would take one thing and just do one thing and just, be sitting there and just count it out for like an hour, doing reps of 10. And then, drop down, push-ups, whatever it is, whatever. Get up, do it again, do one thing, and that was it. So you had, an hour and a half of fucking doing just one piece of footwork, right side, left side, and then another 45 minutes to an hour of just one thing. And to and full out, do it, you know what I mean? Him walking around no, that's how you train to get good at something. And then it's like, goodbye, see you next class. No trying to appease people. You're not selling something. You're training people in something. Now, if you again, in a short period of time, you can cover more material, but the material, it's not about the volume of material, it's about what's the end goal here. What are the strategies that I'm trying to use here? And that shit's got to be simple. It's got to be straightforward. And it's got to be adaptable to each person because people are not the same. And that's the beauty of a strategy. A strategy is what's the overall goal we need to accomplish? Okay, but you at 70 years old cannot accomplish it the same way. We can have the same goal, but we can't accomplish it in the same way because we're different people, different attributes, different age, different points in our lives, different injuries, different predisposition, different makeup. But no matter what you're doing, there are things within the world of combatives or martial arts that are accidental, if not incidental. And those are disarms and locks and chokes and things that, again, talking stand-up. Those things are accidental, if not incidental. On the ground, very intentional. You're using your positioning, but you still have to follow the same concept. You have to set it up. If you get at something right away, it was accidental or incidental because they put themselves in the position, they gave you their back, and you just slapped on the choke and went, good night, motherfucker. You made a critical error there. That was accidental, if not incidental. It's very different when you work position and you work and manipulate and move him and trap, and all of a sudden, you've got the lock, you got the choke. You intentionally worked your shit to that. In stand-up, you could do the same thing, but you got to relay, like mass attack and stuff. You don't have the time to get isolated one-on-one, as Dr. G would say. You don't have the same time to get up close, intimate, and personal like that. If you end up on the ground, then you can do that. Most times in a combat situation, your whole goal when you get on the ground is get the fuck back off the ground. The Gracies themselves say, if you know, it's like if you fell in the pool and you don't know how to swim, what you need to know is how to get back out of the pool, not drown. You don't need to get in the pool and be Michael Phelps. You don't want to be on the ground in a street situation, period. You just don't. Okay? Now, if it's a one-on-one altercation or some sort of ego fight, go to the ground. Do what you want to do with the guy. We're talking asocial violence, not antisocial aggression. But if you're in an asocial violent fight, typically multiple opponents, mutated people trying to murder you, you know, if you end up on the ground, if you fall in the water, you need to be able to get back to the edge and get the fuck out of that pool. That's the extent of what your ground needs to be. Having deeper knowledge in it is great, but that's what you're using those skills for. Okay, so everything else, accidental if not incidental, at the end of the day, make sure in your training you are distinguishing between accidental if not incidental. What are the things for you that fall into that category? Because if you're taught to intentionally go in there and seek these things, it could be just like I experienced, it could be the dumbest fucking thing in the world for you to do. But people will tell you to do it. The so-called experts will tell you to do it. Why? Because it's part of their style. It's part of their system. It's part of what they're, I don't know, I've pressure tested this 100 times. Yeah, having the same technique fed to you by the same guy, I don't get it. That's not pressure testing. Pressure testing is when you don't know the person. Bring in somebody who doesn't know you, you know what I mean, that has some skill and size and has some fucking intent. That's pressure testing. Not, you know what I mean? I've seen this one guy randomly pick people off the street and hand them a knife, put a helmet on them, and then say, try to stab me. And then he stands there with his years of martial arts experience and he starts fucking knee kicking them, like trying to stomp their knee and hit them and punch them in the helmet. These people are like, what the fuck? You just got some accountant walking to fucking his work. And you're like, you know, thinking, oh, you want to be part of this social experiment? And he goes, okay. And the guys are even saying, like, you don't hurt me though, right? Like, I'm not. And so they're standing there. They're not in a fight mode. And the one or two guys that were actually big and athletic and went in ended up getting in, closing on him, and ended up fucking stabbing him multiple times. Like, there's the point. You put a knife in the hands of somebody with a fucking purpose and desire and, you know, the bad attitude to want to fucking murder you. It's a whole different fucking experience. So what are you showing us right here? You're just getting clicks. You just want to get Instagram followers because that's click-worthy. That's clickbait. You know what I mean? And then you do that enough times where you're just all about the demo. And that becomes your art. You're like, let me demo this. Let me show you this. And it's just so easy to put a bow on it. This is knife defense. Let me show you this. Try to stab me and jam the arm. Try to stab me. My favorite thing is half these things, the guy never switches. And when he does it with someone that doesn't know enough, they switch hands and they stab him. And I'm always like, you just got fucking stabbed. You're there holding the arm. And then he's, oh, if he does that, I got to track that. Then I grab the other arm and I just switch to the other arm. And it's like, it's too late for that, man. Fuck. Anyways, that was my rant at the end. That's how I'm wrapping up. All right. Anything else in your guys is on accidental, if not incidental?
Not from me.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like, when you see that stuff, you just got to ask yourself, like, am I willing to bet my life on this?
Yeah.
Because you are. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, when someone's trying to sell you some fancy technique, it's like, you putting all your eggs in that basket, like truly, like really, really spend time envisioning what a violent altercation looks like, what a violent criminal's intentions truly feel like, and ask yourself, like, can you really regulate your response? And do you have the size, strength, speed, timing, all these attributes to be able to pull this thing off, and you're going to bet your life on that?
Yeah.
Not me. No way.
Yeah. Like I said, maybe I'm naive this way, but I just constantly think of myself, no matter how long I've been training, I'm the underdog, right? I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the fastest. All my years of training will help me, but that's still not going to be enough. You know, they're just bigger, stronger, all this type of stuff. So I got to be insidious. I got to be out of the box. I got to be unconventional. I got to have a doom on you mindset. You know what I mean? Like, I look at this shit and I all the training in the world, right? You know, and yet you get stabbed. You know what I mean? Like, it's no fucking joke. Like, again, my friend Wyatt Lewis, that, you know, black belt in jiu-jitsu, tough as fucking nails, kickboxer, kick all this stuff, and just like, you know, guy pulls a knife and just pop, pop, pop 5 times and hits him once in the heart, and you're dead. And, you know, again, like, I'll just come back to the concept of, like, you got to manage distance, you got to move, you got to, there's so many other strategies and tactics long before I would ever get to fucking, I'm shooting in there, intentionally trying to time and shoot in to clinch up on that arm. This is no fucking joke. You get stabbed, like, I mean, you may not be going home at the end of the night. There's just so many other things that I think people should be working and teaching first. Now, again, to finish it on that note, yes, learn it, because accidental, incidental, like that guy, startle flinch, and it saved that guy's life. So yes, you should be exposed to it. Just you can't teach something and profess that it's fucking, that it can't become dogma. It just can't become, you know what I mean? This is what you do against a knife every time. This is what you do. It's not what you do every time against a knife. Right? And again, people got to make shit real. Yeah, and Brad, I love it. Thank you, Wyatt. Miss Wyatt, love Wyatt. Wyatt was amazing. And, you know, again, just one of the realities, warriors die. Like, you know what I mean? I'll end my thing with Dustin's thing. It's risk management. We're trying to mitigate, you know, which is why I have such a problem with this, because I just see this being taught as like, this is it. This is what I'm teaching you. It's one of the riskiest things that you could do, and it's only going to be applicable in a very specific moment in time under a very specific context, right? Where it's literally accidental, if not incidental. And outside of that, it's fucking pretty much useless, or it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary risk in these other moments. So you got to be expressing that to people. You can't, again, profess it and spout it like dogma. So anyways, I think we've beat this horse to death. So, all right, guys, if we're good, then that's where we're going to wrap it up for tonight. So listen, as always, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to, Dustin and Brad, thank you guys always for your time. I appreciate it. Again, our sole mission is to help educate people. Our sole criteria is how to weaponize against violence. Weaponizing, again, is the mental and physical process for mastering the tool of violence. Violence is a language, and this is what we're doing. We're interpreters of this language. We've studied it singularly. That is all we do. None of what I'm saying, you know, I'm not trying to talk about combat sports or martial arts, although we reference them. That is solely for contrast. Our world is violence. I have nothing but respect. A lot of my great friends are fighters, pro fighters. You know, they're amazing warriors and gladiators. But we are all about violence. Many good men, and I believe more now than ever, want the skill sets, you know, to protect and provide for their families. And this is the threats that we potentially face out here in this world. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. So this is our sole mission, and it's only possible when you guys help spread the word. So like, share, comment, pass it on. We appreciate it. It helps us reach more good men just like you. And that's it, guys. Thank you for your time. So listen, as always, stay safe, stay weaponized. Chat again soon, everybody. Take care. Have a great night.